Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is you want me to check out. Today's comes at us from Childra. Since you enjoyed the previous request, here's another song, this time performed live. Y'all clicked on the video, you know what band we're talking about. We have some Xdinary Heroes on display for us with the track XYMPHONY, which is honestly just really good brand synergy. All right, I'll try not to make too many dad jokes about swapping in X's in places they don't normally belong. Let's dive into this. See what Xdinary Heroes is bringing to the table today. Little theatric here with a dash of like poppy quotes. There's those rich soundtrack arpeggiations. Although it sounds like arpeggiations with movement by thirds worked in. Interesting bit of noise there. Got a bit of a tango in here too. This is fun. Cool electronic layers in the back. Nice build up here. So a fake out first, nice. Yeah, carve out space, fill it back in.
귓가에는 노래 oh my gosh 낯선 세상 속에 빠진 날 가엾이 여긴다면 마침표를 허락해줘 제정신은 없냐 미워성인 마냥 침묵정전마저 다르게
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is sort of hip-hop related with not having much melody, and then we get rap vocals on top. Very nice. Carving out that space for the vocals that would come later. The pre-chorus build-up again. This is very well done. Okay, so last time we had a bit of a hard rock section. Wonderful. Very cool track. I'm definitely on board for this. I think I'm gonna need to listen. Sorry. Somehow I have a smaller microphone and I still find ways to hit it. I'm gonna need to find some time to check out some of this group. because this was wonderful. It's a very cool intersection between the realms of mainstream music. I don't know if I necessarily want to say pop music, but definitely a mainstream rock style, while bringing in an eclectic group of influences. There's a little bit of hip hop in here. There's a heavy use of theming. Oh, there's constant places where we have a core idea that's just repeated over and over because it sounds great and without much variation to it. This is another more mainstream technique here, but we also have the more classical and film soundtrack influences in here. We have the expanded harmonic information. We have chords in here that we don't typically hear in more mainstream artists, I should say. We do hear chords like these in film soundtracks often, but it's not usually the core elements. Usually most people are focused on, the film. But we also have, what was it? We have the rock, the hip hop, a hard rock sound in here too, which I thought was pretty cool. That was the post chorus. And then just the classical elements, especially with the arpeggiation, which is incredibly popular in classical sounds. I don't know that I have too many issues with this track. We will get to them. I have a couple, maybe small things for sure, but I want to focus on the positive first. This is a rather eclectic track, and I'm going to put it in the realm of progressive rock. And I find that to be very cool that Xdinary Heroes is as popular as they are. They have the following that they do, and they're still regarded within the general mainstream area of K-pop, or is K-rock a thing? I don't know. They're still within this conversation though. Because usually the more progressive an artist is, the more outside of the mainstream they get. There are certain bands, particularly in the Western world, like Dream Theater and maybe even Nightwish, who have obtained a little bit more of a larger following than a traditional, more progressive style sound would get. But it really is a bit of the exception rather than the norm. And I wonder how exceptional Xdinary Heroes is in this regard. Are there a lot of progressive rock groups that have the same kind of notoriety and fame that they do? Or are they kind of a standout in a realm that's dominated by pop acts? I'm kind of curious about that. Regardless, they do have a very progressive take to things, bringing in all of these influences, putting them together, and while using some of the musical vernacular of mainstream music. We do have a verse, chorus, bridge, chorus setup. That's super common. We are in 4/4. We do have some more mainstream sounds in here. We are using a lot of primary pedal tone ideas in particularly the chorus. We do have the stripped down hip hop beat. We do have the, what's the phrase for this? Expected build up and drop into the chorus. There is the fake out. They did get me the first time, but even the fake out is pretty common in music too. They are using a lot of elements in mainstream music to have a certain palatability to it. But what they do within this framework is not typical. And I think that's where they really shine. It's where the two verses are wildly different. Although I suppose even in K-pop, that's pretty typical and is something that I've praised in past K-pop tracks, usually because of the fact that there's so many vocalists and vocal styles that switching up the music to match the style makes sense when you have so many vocalists, which is sort of what we got in here too, where the rapper of the group had the music fit to what they were going to do in that second verse. So maybe that's not something to put too much at their feet, as it's more indicative of the style of music and the culture surrounding K-rock and K-pop. I still don't know about K-rock. And it just kind of fits into that. But it's still this merging of things non-mainstream and things very mainstream. And I think that's where they excel. They are able to create music that is a bit on the fringe of the mainstream sound and bring it into a very palatable package that I think anybody who enjoys a rock sounds, maybe even who are K-pop fans, since I still think they have parts of that, particularly with their vocal technique, their vocal variety. That element definitely carries over rather well from the K-pop audience, and I think is what I would consider a bridge element, which is a component of another genre that might bridge or might act as a bridge to help people from that genre to enjoy a different one. And that's just another way of creating, this palatable framework to put these more interesting ideas within. Now, the song kicks off with some really great piano work, and I love this because it sets the scene for everything. It is theatric, it is dramatic, it has these sweeping multi-octave arpeggiations, and an arpeggiation is just a word that it doesn't dictate, but it describes what notes of a chord are being played. In particular, an arpeggiation, if you have a key that has, most Western normal keys have 8 notes in them. You're going to take the first, the third, the fifth, and then the eighth, which is going to be the octave of our first. That's an arpeggio. You go 1, 3, 5, 8. We get a good old arpeggio there. So we'll do that up 2 octaves, come back down. But what was really neat is that we injected, I believe, a shifting of thirds in there as well. This is an interesting direction because it's not super complicated from a theoretical perspective, but it comes off as something incredibly interesting harmonically and melodically, while also still just being a pretty standard walk up and walk down, but also he decides to do it at a pretty decent speed with incredible precision. And it sounds so clean. And I love that the song is introduced that way. Then we bring the band in. We got this nice drop here. Pretty straightforward verse. Kind of bring the energy down, bring it up, bring it down, build up into the chorus. Here at the chorus, though, I think is when the song is the most simplest. It's not really aiming to introduce too many ideas. It's a pretty straightforward pop rock idea. The guitars are playing pedal tones, just chords, very simple harmonic information. We have a couple of cool textures coming in on the keyboardist. I mean, there's 2 keyboardists, but the one who's doing like the synthy sounds on the keyboard rather than the piano sounds. They're introducing some cool textures. We have some vocal layers in here. And the drums are very straightforward. This is the hook. This is the catchy part. This is the part you're going to remember. And sure enough, it's the part that I find most memorable about it as well. A lot of that is due to the simplicity, but also the consistency that we will continue to hear this idea, whereas all the verses and the bridge are unique. So we don't get to spend anywhere near as much time with them. This is all done by effect. It is, or by purpose. It is incredibly effective, and it keeps that part stuck in your brain. Makes you want to keep coming back to it as well, because where the rest of the track can be overwhelming or it can just be a bit too intricate, this part is going to grab pretty much anyone who listens to it. As I mentioned, I really enjoy that the second verse is a variation of the first. We don't get the exact same ideas, but we do have the same drum beat. We have a reduction of layers, which is a really nice foreshadowing to the second half where we bring in the rapped vocals over a more hip-hop style sound, being more rhythmic oriented than harmonic and melodic. Very great idea of helping to transition from that chorus into this moment while making it all feel natural and having callbacks to that first verse while introducing a brand new section. Really intelligent composition going on here. Now we're going to reach my first issue in a sense. After the second verse, we have a chorus, and this takes us to a bridge. I just wish this bridge were something more. There's a neat piano solo in here, except it feels so short. Right when we start getting into this solo, telling me something, building into something, it quits. And then kind of awkwardly we have a little bit of a drum fill and then a build up and then a drop into the chorus again. We kind of have a variation of our pre-chorus to take us back into this. It's fine, but when the rest of the song feels so intricately placed and created, every section designed to move into the next, to inform where we are going, to call back to things we've done, to help build into new ideas, it all feels like it's in conversation with itself. And then this bridge, this piano solo feels isolated. It is a callback to the intro for sure, and I think that the piano solo here is a version of that opening piano part, but moving into it was kind of rough and moving out of it was really rough. It just doesn't feel as connected to anything, and it doesn't stand on its own either. It kind of feels like, well, this is an issue I have with a lot of mainstream rock music in particular, but pop music falls into this trapping as well, where you have to have a bridge. That's how music is. Verse, chorus, you introduce something new, you hit the chorus again, you wrap it up. But I don't think a lot of people actually know what to do with the bridge. You got a solid verse, you got a catchy chorus, and then you got to write something else. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say never, there's a lot of instances where I feel like the bridge just is there. It fills space, it fills time, and that's what I feel here. It's there because the structure dictates it, not because they wanted it, not because the song demanded it, but simply because after that second chorus, you gotta do something a little different. And I kind of wish they had chucked convention in this regard and either quit after that second chorus and gone for the very modern A, B, A, B, C. Maybe just go for a little outro after that and cut the song short a little. Or decided to do an A, B, A, B, C, D and use that piano solo as a platform to move into a truly new idea, a peak for the song. As it stands, though, having that third chorus was nice, and I do enjoy that there was a guitar solo in it the final time, just a nice little variation. As I say many times, if you're going to make me listen to a section 3 times, keep it fresh. Having a guitar solo in that final time through helps with that. But the piano solo doesn't build into it. It doesn't really say anything by itself. It's like the chapter began, and then the author decided that they didn't really know what to do with this chapter, but they left it in rather than scrapping it. And you turn to the next page, and instead of continuing that story, you're in the next chapters for some reason. And that's what that feels like to me. It's just not connected. It doesn't do anything by itself. It's not a really strong section. I don't know. I don't want to keep ranting on this, but it is the weakest part of the song for me by far. And I think a lot of that comes down to intention. Where every other part of this song feels purpose-built, this feels like a blueprint. You have to have this, so he did something for it, and then we got back to the good stuff. And that's just something I can hear it coming. I'm in the moment. I can hear it going on this way. You can't sneak that by me. I don't know. I have such a nose, in a sense, for purposeless bridges, and this is unfortunately one of them. But otherwise, I think this song does a fantastic job of not just having great ideas and a variety of ideas, but also great dynamics. Highs and lows across this track, not just volume-wise, not just layers of how many instruments we have, but the ever-changing pitch of the vocalists helps push the song forward. It helps give it momentum. We have rising and falling energy. We have sections that feel like they're large and bombastic and powerful, and others that are a bit more pensive, a bit more thoughtful. And they can actually come together too. The driving arpeggios in the opening piano line is both an energetic moment, but also kind of silent, solitude, going for more of that pensive feel, especially given the chords used during it, which feel a bit more internal than external. It's an interesting combination of external energy in performance with internal energy musically. Really love that combination there. As usual, everybody kind of kills it though. I think the piano and the guitarists are the only ones who really get to show off as far as their chops. but everyone does a fantastic job at what they're doing. And it's just, like I said, it kind of walks that fine line between more technical or progressive writing and being very palatable and digestible to a modern audience. And I love music that isn't afraid to be in this place, that's still kind of on that poppier side of things, but wants to explore stuff a little more. I'm going to take a moment to read some lyrics. We'll dive through that, and then we'll wrap the video up. Also, real quick, I totally forgot about this until I started reading the lyrics, and I remembered there was another interesting part of this track that kind of stands out as a non-mainstream idea, and that's the concept of noise. At the end of the piano solo, and used to punctuate a couple of different transition ideas, is this really noisy, tense moment from the piano and the guitars, and just kind of hit a bunch of notes that don't really sound pretty. It's probably one of the simplest ways to describe it. It's technically called dissonance, and it's when the sound waves of the notes don't work together really well. They're very frictional, and it creates a clashing sound wave element. I kind of feel a bit of warbliness and tightness to it. It can sound bad. Some people might describe it as ugly. It has purpose. It has use. It's not something to always avoid. And right here, I think, is a really good case of using it, as it's going to line up with the lyrics that we'll talk about in a second. But it does a great job of bringing your attention to these very short moments to help with the rhythmic cadence of these transitions. But noise, dissonance in general, isn't something you hear in a lot of mainstream music. And I think that it's used here in a very tasteful way that is both, one, not going to be too off-putting, but two, like I mentioned, fits thematically with these lyrics. This song is about being unique, odd, at points saying that they're describing themselves as imperfect, that their world is noisy, that their world has been twisted into noise. What is another phrase that I wanted to bring up here? I don't remember. Anyways, it's about being a little different and finding people who complement you, where maybe you feel like you're outside of the norm too far to make connection, and you find somebody who's just as strange as you are, just as different or unique as you are, and you complement each other in positive ways, where you don't need to wear a mask and be more harmonious with your environment. You can still be yourself around this other person, and it's all presented through the metaphor of a noisy symphony, of noise coming together and sounding good, describing it as a sweet melody despite it being chaotic sounds. And I really like this metaphor. I like this message overall too, but I like using, I'm a sucker for a good music metaphor, and I think they're nailing it right here. It says, "From the moment I stepped towards you, a faint and small sound echoed." Then we have the chorus that says, "A sweet melody will save me. My chaotic mind, a world that was only noisy, now makes sense." It doesn't say that my mind has calmed, it just says that I understand it now. I really like that. Not a drive to be different, not a drive to change yourself to match what you think you should be, but to understand the mind, to understand who you are. It's a very poignant message right here. Says that this is imperfection made to a perfect symphony. And then it ends the chorus by saying the symphony will never be extinguished. Mentions that the sound lingers in their ears, that even the silence and stillness now sound different. Says, "I'm unstable and imperfect, but we must embrace each other." I really like that. We're all a little different. We all have our quirks. We all have our own personalities. We need to learn how to embrace each other with that, and we will be stronger by doing so. We do have the pre-chorus, which leans hard into the metaphor here. It says, "Tease me, please me in my ears. Do you think I'm crazy? It overwhelms me." Talking about the sound, but also this connection between these people. I love this. The bridge works well too. I'm still not super keen about the musicality of it, but at least thematically, I'm becoming to appreciate it a little more. It says, I can hear you more and more. It doesn't bother me, finding peace of my mind. I think stripping the song down just to the piano solo works really well for this concept of finding peace. But again, it's not about forcing you to become peaceful on the inside. It's about finding peace with who you are, not making peace within. And I love this whole thing. So it all comes together, I think. And even the song itself is about embracing the unique elements of yourself and finding people who will not only embrace you for who you are, but are going to help elevate you too, about finding normalcy in the less normal, about finding peace in the chaos. And I think bringing these more eclectic, that's not the right word, bringing these more progressive ideas into a more traditional sound matches this perfectly. It's a really great way of finding thematic synergy between almost every part of the music and the lyrics. I really dig that. These are my thoughts on Xdinary Heroes' Xymphony. Let me know what you thought of this. If there's anything that stood out to you, anything that you'd like to add on to what I said, or correct me on if maybe I misspoke about something. Do you have a different perspective, opinion, or take on this? Let me know. Put all of that and anything else you want to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.